Great. Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Robin Elander, and I'm the Executive Director for Downtown Santa Barbara. And this is an ongoing conversation with our downtown stakeholders, our community leaders, a collaboration between the Downtown Santa Barbara organization and the Santa Barbara Independent. Today, we're going to be talking about downtown developments, and we have two really great guests on our show, our program today. We have Tess Harris, who is the State Street Master Planner, working on the Create State Downtown Master Plan. Welcome, Tess. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Robin. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here and happy to be talking about State Street and downtown and what's to come in the future.
We're so excited to have the conversation. There's so much in the works, and I know you've been working really hard with a team of people on this. So thanks for sharing some information today. And we also have Brian Cearnal of Cearnal Collective, and he has been working on many different projects locally for quite a number of years with his team, but also is working on quite a number of developments. So thanks for joining us, Brian.
Thank you, Robin. Good to be here.
Great. So Tess, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit, before we get into the State Street Master Plan, give us a little bit of your background. What kinds of things have you been involved with prior to now?
Sure. So I've been at the city for just under 3 years working on the State Street Master Plan. And prior to that, I held a couple different planning positions, both locally and then elsewhere in California. So I've worked for the County of Ventura and Santa Barbara prior to working at the city of Santa Barbara. And some of my focus has been on both large and smaller scale projects. So I worked on the Tahigas landfill project and the Caltrans expansion, as well as the aftermath of the Montecito debris flow, and really recovery for that community. What is exciting about what I'm doing right now is just getting to be able to be part of something that's really, I think, going to be a change and an excitement for the community. So the community that I live in, Santa Barbara, and getting to do a project that really feels like it'll be something for everybody. So I'm very happy to be part of the State Street Master Planning team and to be leading that project for the city. And I'm excited to see what's to come in the next few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Well, it's great to hear about all the other projects you've been involved in. Those are some really significant elements to our community. So I just want to stop there and say thank you for the work that you've done, particularly around supporting the Montecito area after that such strong emergency, as well as the taquitos situation. That's really important for our entire community, as well as the rest of your work. So obviously that's informed your work with this project. Can you tell the community, for those who haven't been as close to it, kind of where we've been and a little bit about where we're going?
Sure. So the project started in 2021. And this is the State Street Master Plan has been sort of envisioned in various forms well before that. So at the beginning of COVID, during the closure, we temporarily closed the street, as you see mostly today. And that's really how the State Street Master Plan began to form. There were a lot of other community events as well. I want to particularly call out the AIA Design Charrette that occurred in 2020. They really spearheaded with a number of architects opportunities for re-envisioning downtown. And that sparked, I think, the city to take a next step and decide that we wanted to move forward with a downtown master plan. So where we've done a lot of community engagement over the last couple years. We had a survey that went out with about 7,000 participants responding. We've tried to engage people where they're at. So talking about what people want to see in their downtown community, what not only the types of events that you might want to experience, but what types of activities you want to see in the space, whether that's an area for children or an area to sit and rest and relax, a park-like feel, what types of mobility options you might want to have, how you want to get around the space. So we've been having a lot of different conversations out in the community. The State Street Advisory Committee also was formed. So that's a committee that Robin is a part of 17 members in the community that are really helping to provide feedback and advice and ultimately a recommendation on the plan to City Council. What we are doing now is really drafting the master plan. So we're working through a lot of the different design elements. Some of that was presented within the last 6 months or so, and some of that will continue to be presented, but looking at the mobility options, looking at the different districts and spaces within State Street and the project area as a whole. And then really moving forward, we're going to be looking at an implementation plan. So how do we actually finance, fund, manage, and maintain this space in general? And that's sort of the next big piece of the project that I envision happening.
Great. Well, that gives us, our audience, such a good overview of kind of where we're at. I want to dig a little further into some of that in just a moment. But before we do that, Brian, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and some of the projects that you've worked on in the Santa Barbara area?
Well, I got here in Santa Barbara in 1980 and started the firm in 1983. So we're now 40 years old, and we've done a lot of projects that people are aware of, many probably that people aren't. We did the Canary Hotel way back. We if you'll pardon my expression, we facadized the old J.C. Penney's that is now the Amazon building downtown. We helped Cottage Hospital extensively with their master plan and did their housing project at the old St. Francis site. Currently, we're doing a lot of housing projects. The project that has the big crane on Gutierrez Street is 78 rental units. So it's one of the biggest AUD projects in our downtown. We're excited about seeing that go up. And we're doing a number of housing authority projects as well, which are very important to providing the affordable housing. We did the El Carrillo project on Carrillo, which was one of the first projects that developed very small little micro units that are only like 280 square feet for people coming out of homelessness. So housing is a big, big piece of what we do.
Absolutely. Your website and your different community contributions over the years are truly immense. You and your team are very talented, and the outcomes of kind of your vision for the project. I know that you are a very prolific architect and developer. So thank you for all you're doing. Can you talk a little bit more about maybe some of the housing projects and how you think those will support our downtown community, since we're kind of focused on the downtown in this conversation?
Well, I mean, first off, I have to say that it's just critical. The housing piece is the critical component ultimately to making State Street work. You know, all the rest of it kind of will follow, but we've got to have people living downtown to really have a vibrant community. So one of the smaller projects that we did recently, which was very exciting, and the DO recognized Jason Yardy for implementing this project, was the conversion of the Sur La Table building downtown into 14 residential units. And so far, it's proving to work very well. People love it, and it rented up right away. So that demonstrates the demand. You know, I will say here that the conversion of a lot of buildings downtown is not going to be as easy as that project, because there are limitations from building code perspectives. And I do think one of the goals of the State Street Master Plan, I think, is to really, you know, deal with this issue of conversion and to streamline the process for people. And so that's a very, very important thing that I certainly want to be involved in, making sure that that happens, so that people who do choose to, you know, convert office space, which is not getting rented right now, into residential, there ought to be a method that is really streamlined through our regulatory process. But you know, there's just a lot of interest in building housing now because of the office market being in the situation that it's in. So we've got a number of projects. I know the housing authority, as I mentioned before, is intimately involved in so many projects. We're doing this is not downtown, but we're working on the La Cumbre Plaza uh, re-envisioning, which is going to be 640 units, and obviously Paseo Nuevo is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 units, which is going to make a big difference in our downtown.
Can you give folks a little bit of a feel for, when we start to see the construction on a new housing project, how much time has gone into it in general? Of course, it's different on each project, but to get to that point.
It's a slog. I can tell you that really, generally speaking, before anybody sees any construction activity starting, we have been working on the project for 2 or 3 years,
Okay.
and sometimes longer. I mentioned the St. Francis housing project. That project, from the day we started working on it to the day they began construction, it was a decade.
Mm.
So it's not easy, and there are a lot of regulations that come into play and a lot of forces at work. And I do think this conversation about streamlining and figuring out ways to make it easier for people is important. One of the things I should mention that is a big factor in the creation of housing downtown and affordable housing in general are the state laws that are mandating or allowing, I should say, bonus density for developers. If they build a certain number of affordable units, they get a percentage of bonus density over and above what the city would normally allow. I also want to say, though, that the AUD program has been critical in incentivizing housing in our downtown, and I think it is working. We mentioned the charrette earlier, the architect charrette. I do want to remind everybody that we actually had a charrette back in 2017 where we talked about many of the same things we're talking about now, and in fact that was pre-COVID, obviously. But we talked about the closing of State Street, and I'm actually grateful that COVID finally closed State Street. And now we have to go through this difficult transition of really making it a viable place. And that's just going to take a lot of additional heavy lifting.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point and a transition back to you, Tess. Can you talk a little bit about how you envision, this next steps of the process to, adopt a master plan that kind of helps guide, but what also you foresee happening alongside of that, wherever possible that to kind of because it's a separate process. It's similar, but it's also there's other things that can be happening while the master planning process is kind of coming into fruition. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So the master plan process is really a high level visioning plan for downtown. What do we want downtown to look and feel like, and how do we want to experience downtown over the next 10, 20, 30 years? So it's really setting the stage for a lot of projects to come following it. What I envision is that over the next year, we will have a draft and a final master plan before City Council. So I do envision that over the summertime, members of the public will get an opportunity to review and comment on the draft master plan. And then taking from that plan, there'll be a number of different projects that then we'll need to go through the design process and go through further construction detail to really figure out the key pieces to certain areas. So we might take projects block by block. We might take them by district area, and that'll be decided partially in the master plan in that implementation component when we're looking at phasing and what are some of the immediate steps that we can take, what are some sort of mid-level steps, what things can happen in the next 5 or so years, and what things might be longer term that might be 10 plus years of implementation work. There's also a lot of other projects happening downtown within the city that are really key to, I think, making downtown successful. So Brian mentioned Paseo Nuevo as one. That's definitely one right in the heart of downtown that I think the city is really excited about the potential for at least approximately 500 units of housing. That would be a big draw right on State Street and in the downtown core. Others that are online are coming online soon. There's the Library Plaza, there's the State Street undercrossing, and the De La Guerra Plaza projects. And so it's really creating community space and making sure that we can connect them, and also creating kind of a neighborhood feel within our downtown core.
Yeah, there really is so much going on. Downtown is in a significant transition of a space. And I think, people sometimes, get caught up in seeing, well, whether there's, say, a vacant space or there's a sign that says it's for lease or something like that. Oftentimes there is a lot happening behind the scenes that something is about to open, or in process of being considered to be developed, or that something is being worked on for numerous years in order to kind of get to some of these things that we're talking about. Back to you, Brian. Do you want to share a little bit more about, say, any particular project that you're more excited about, something that you're actively, trying to either bring to fruition or that is particularly exciting to you?
Well, I mean, I have to say we've been working, talk about time, since 2018. We've been working on the police station, and I want to credit the city by making the decision to keep the police station downtown, even though there was controversy around the farmers market. I think that actually led to the renovation plans for De La Guerra Plaza, and has ended up landing the farmers market onto State Street, which is a really, really good thing. And it's going to be another one of those pieces that enhances and encourages the vitality of Santa Barbara. To your point about, just want to say on the State Street side, what's so hard is that we still have this right of way that was designed for cars. And in fact, originally, people used to park on State Street, and then the State Street Mall project happened, and we ended up with the wider sidewalks and a lot of improvements. But the curbs become this defining element that we really need to think through, and where do those curbs end up? The other thing that I think is hard for people right now is the whole bicycle issue. We've kind of given State Street now to the bicycle. We have two wide lanes, and I do want to throw in here my feeling that ultimately, and this is in the State Street master plan, by the way, that State Street should be safe and leisurely, and that is what it should create. And somehow we have to make the pedestrian number one while still facilitating bike traffic, but realizing that State Street should not be a freeway for bike traffic, which is, for a lot of people these days, that is what is happening. But I'm excited about a lot of the focus on getting residential downtown, and we have, we're trying to convert a building to residential that's in the 1,000 block of State Street. It's a little bit of a challenge, again, because of code issues that sometimes people don't realize get in the way of those kind of implementations. And I'm looking forward to the city helping in that way to make that happen more and more, similar to what that Sur La Table project was.
Brian, since you have a lot of experience with this, what are some of the key factors, maybe say like the top 3 factors that like really make a project come together? Certainly there's thousands of them, but are there some key elements when kind of a project team is going to click and it's going to work? Can you speak a little bit about, how, when something is moving in the right direction and what some of those factors are?
So much of the time it is an economic question, and right now, and this, it's something that is sort of the gorilla in the room. It costs a lot of money to build residential units. Those units that are being built on Gutierrez that I mentioned, they probably are going to be approaching $500,000 a key, and these are for apartments. And so developers who we're relying on to build our housing have to be able to make projects make sense for them to be able to take that risk. And so those are where the forces really are at work, because obviously, you know, a lot of our community is concerned about building height and you know, in order to make projects financially feasible, they need to be able to achieve a certain height. And we're in this push and pull right now of that with the design review committees and with the planning commission and whatnot, that I do have to say in my time here, there's a lot of evolution going on that is creating the ability for more projects to be built. But it's very challenging and very hard, and it takes developers with stamina and knowledge of the Santa Barbara process really to make something happen. So for instance, you know, another project that we're doing, that's another crane that just went up, is for sanctuary centers. It's a project that has been in the works for probably close to 8 years, and it's finally getting built, and it's going to be such an important resource to this community in terms of affordable housing and medical services in our downtown. So that's another one that's close in, that's going to make a difference.
That's great. And so for folks who aren't familiar with that space, where exactly is that?
So that is in the block between Figueroa and Anapamu, and Chapala and De La Vina.
Okay, great.
So it's actually a building that's getting built right there in the middle of the block. And it had a lot of concern about its height, because it goes all the way to, it's 5 stories and 60 feet. But I think when it's all said and done, it's probably going to be noticeable because it's in the middle of the block.
Gotcha. Well, great. All of these things sound really exciting. Lots of new developments in store, a lot of things coming from a lot of years of community effort to make them happen. Back to you, Tess. How, if people want to get involved in the Create State master planning process, what opportunities are there, and what else should people know about this project?
Sure. So we certainly welcome and hope that everybody does get involved in the project. This is, in my mind, this is sort of a once in a lifetime opportunity to really see a transformation for the downtown that you live or work or enjoy. And so I hope that that everybody does get involved. There are a couple different ways. You can go to our website. It's statestreet.santabarbaraca.gov, and you can sign up for our newsletter at the bottom of our website there. You can participate in the State Street Advisory Committee meetings that we have. So we will have a couple more of those over the next year, probably one in the summer and one towards the end of the year, where we're looking at the draft and final plan. We certainly welcome and hope to have a lot of public comment at those meetings. You can email us at State Street Master Plan at santabarbaraca.gov and share your comments or thoughts, and those get distributed to the advisory committee as well, even when we're not meeting. And then there'll be future events as we're gearing up to release a draft plan. There will be public outreach events that'll happen on State Street, that'll happen in different committees and commissions, and we plan to be out in the public and trying to go to where people are at, rather than have people coming to City Hall.
Great, that's all super helpful. And Brian, do you have anything coming up that you'd like people to know about, ways that people can either get involved or just pay attention to something that is kind of coming online?
You know, I don't have anything really specific. I mean, I do think it's important for citizens to support housing projects, even if they aren't 100% affordable, because that does make a difference. You know, one of the exciting things, the coalescing of this master plan right now is wonderful, because it comes right about the time that we're approaching our 100th anniversary of the earthquake. And you know, the State Street was a very different place 100 years ago, and it's the perfect time for us to now evolve to sort of that next century, if you will, for Santa Barbara and for State Street. And you know, certainly hope that what we end up with is just a lot of people living and working in our downtown and creating a truly pedestrian environment that isn't compromised at all by automobiles, and makes a difference for everyone living here.
Really good feedback. Yeah, I think there's so much in the works, and I think, our community is so passionate about making sure that Santa Barbara and downtown in general is a beautiful place to live and work. I think sometimes we get so excited about it that we sometimes miss the other side of what other people have to say. So I want to just encourage folks as they explore these important new developments to get involved, share your opinion, share, your thoughts, but leave also some space so that you can take in kind of the diverse opinions, because that's how really great projects support the greater good of our community. So anything else that you want to share, Tess, before we close up today?
I'm just looking forward to continuing to work with the community and seeing the master plan come to fruition. And I look forward to seeing future projects being built in the downtown core. It's just a really exciting time. It's going to be exciting to see the continued amount of energy and momentum building, and I think that only can grow. And again, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I really do hope that members of the public get involved and share their feedback and opinions. And we're here to hear that and take that in as we draft the plan.
Awesome. Thanks so much for all your hard work on that, Tess. Anything else you'd like to share, Brian, before we hop off?
Well, I just really look forward to, and this is a little message to Tess. I think we're at the point now where I want to see, some real effort by the city to create avenues by which things can happen. And one of the areas that I think, and we haven't touched on it much, but it's a detail, is the whole stormwater demands that our city has. And State Street is a perfect way for us to sort of deal collectively with a stormwater system that will not force each and every applicant on each and every property to deal with their own specific stormwater requirements. So I hope that gets into the process. And I think what's good about where the process is right now is the big picture has been established, and now God is in the detail. So I look forward to that.
It's a really good final point by an awesomely concerned citizen for our community. Thank you so much, Brian. Well,
Thank you,
until
Rodney.
next time, please check out our website at downtownsb.org to find out all of our different business opportunities that are coming up, as well as our events. We will be getting into a weekly dance series coming up in April, so make sure you take a look at that. That's our country line dancing back in front of Best Barbecue, a brand new business on State Street from 6 to 8 p.m. Free class coming first. And then also in May, as a preview, we have our live art and wine tour coming up again this year. And this time it's going to be from Carrillo moving towards the beach at 8 different venues. We pair great wine and great food from our downtown businesses with 8 different venues and an after party at the Historical Museum. So such a fun one and a great way to raise funds for our different programming throughout the year. So thanks again, Tess and Brian, for joining us, and we'll see you around downtown.
Thank you for all you
Thanks,
do,
Robin.
Robin.
Thank you. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.